First of all, I would like to pay homage to the Buddha with some Pali in the style of the Venerable Mahasi Sayadaw. So please just, although it will be Pali and some Burmese that you may not understand, it's speaking about the qualities of the Buddha, and some of these, one of these qualities I will discuss tonight. Buddha so bhagava. Buddha so bhagava Buddhaya dhammang deseti. Dando so bhagava dhammataya dhammang deseti. Sando so bhagava samataya dhammang deseti. So bhagava chanudo amyayi ata kogweya asit pyito muzo tomya swapyadi. Santo ragasata adosha kinyat nyingta nini domu bidi pyayue. Samataya satawa amya chanudo ale aladu swa nyenta nyene jabase jin jonga Dhamma nyenta seyan teya mango deseti karuna sheswa panya apyan ojaro mukhe babei tan bhagavantan sadotin sha Tomya swapya fikingo ahang achinodi wandami yose myano la omoye shiko puso baiya shimpya teno so bhagawa taranaya dhammang deseti parinivuto so bhagawa Parinivanaya dhammang deseti. Tan bhagavan tan gwandam. You can say sadhu. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Tonight's talk is different from yesterday's and the one tomorrow. Every day we've been listening to talks on the Anatta Lakkhana Sutta by Sayadaw. And this is like the good bread that we eat every day. So we eat this good healthy bread every day. But sometimes we get tired of just having bread. So what do? We take one slice and another slice, and in between we put some cheese or some meat, and lettuce, tomato, and we have a sandwich. So that makes the bread very interesting. So today's talk will be a sandwich talk, and my topic will be walking the path to peace. The Buddha said that the world is burned by 11 fires, and of these, the 3 main fires are the fires of raga, or greed, the fire of dosa, or anger, the fire of moha, or delusion. These fires burn on 3 levels. They burn when these qualities are expressed as actions or speech. This is the gross level of the kilesas, the fires of raga, dosa, and moha. And on the medium grade level, they obsess in our mind. On the refined level, they lie dormant or latent. They arise and become obsessive in our mind when the conditions are present. So when there's lust or greed in the mind, and one can't control it, when there's no control of morality, there's no control of through mental control. So when there's no restraint and people are overcome with their greed, they turn to actions such as stealing, committing sexual crimes, harming people because of their own lust, lying for their own benefit. When people are overcome by anger, they turn to acts of killing, torture, cruelty. And when people don't know what is good to do, what isn't good to do, they also, people also commit wrong deeds simply through ignorance of right and wrong. So one can see that these fires burn externally in the world, and as well as yogis, we can experience how they arise in our mind on the obsessive level until we can control them with the practice. So these fires are very evident in the world today. Before his enlightenment as the Buddha, the Bodhisattva looked at the world, both inside himself and outside, and he saw clearly that these fires are burning. He saw that there is a need for a way to put them out. And he also saw that the internal fires, the fires within, are worse than the external fires, because when fire burns inside, outer fires will not die. When inner fire has died, outer fire will not arise. So he determined to find a way to put out the fires. First of all, putting them out inside himself. And therefore he fulfilled the paramis, beginning with the parami of dana, giving. And when his paramis were complete, in his final lifetime, he practiced satipatthana, bhavana, and he put out the gross level of fire, the medium levels of fires, and the refined or subtle levels of fires. He gained complete peace. Due to the practice of satipatthana, all the 11 fires were put out. In particular, the fire of raga, greed, the fire of dosa, anger, and the fire of moha, delusion, were completely put out. That means that whatever he saw, whatever he heard, smelled, tasted, touched, or thought, whatever the object was, no matter how delightful, there was no agitation of the mind due to raga, to greed. No matter how despicable, hateful the object was, there was no agitation due to anger. And his mind was always calm and peaceful. Because there was no ignorance at all, ignorance had been completely eliminated from his mind. There was no agitation due to moha, delusion. And so he was completely calm and peaceful. And this is called santa in Pali. Santa means one who is calm and peaceful. So the Buddha made himself completely still, completely free of the agitation of raga, dosa, and moha. And thus he had the quality of Santa. And this is explained in the text which I recited earlier, in particular, Santo So Bhagava Samataya Dhammam Deseti. And that is something I would like to explain today. So the Buddha was firmly established in the correct objective as he searched for the way to put out the kilesas. That is, he had the objective of, he worked to develop the paramis to the extent necessary in order to put out all the kilesas. And having fulfilled the paramis, he found the middle way, including the path of satipatthana practice. And he put it into practice. So putting satipatthana into practice, first of all, he gained momentary peace. It's called Tadanga Santi in Pali, during the first part of his practice. This momentary peace occurs when we see the object as it really is, when the mind is concentrated, the kilesas don't have a chance to arise. But also when knowledge arises, the latent kilesas are uprooted. This is too complex to say, but both when there's samadhi and knowledge arising in regard to the object, one achieves momentary peace. That is, the kilesas are being eliminated momentarily. And for the bodhisattva, this part of the practice just took a moment, not like us. And following that, he reached the lasting peace of Achanta Santi. And thus he became fulfilled with this quality of Santa. So that means one who is free of the agitation of raga, dosa, and moha, and is peaceful. This is the stage that the Buddha reached by his own efforts. In order to put out the internal fires, so for the bodhisattva, his path was to fulfill the paramis and search for the method of practice. Finding it, he practiced it and put out the fires. At the moment of Tadanga Santi, or momentary peace, his mind was calm. And at the moment of Achanta Santi, or lasting peace, which occurred with path knowledge, the 4 path knowledges, he completely put out the fires, and they were not able to arise again. Only after making himself peaceful in this way did he go about teaching others. So for the Buddha, there was no more new lifetime to come, and therefore no need to, in a future lifetime, get old, get sick, die, experience sorrow, lamentation, and so on. All these intense fires, these are also part of the 11 fires the Buddha talked about. All these intense fires had been put out as a result of his practice. And only after having become peaceful in this way did he teach the path of peace. And nowadays, of course, in some large countries of the world, people hold a bomb in one hand and an olive branch in the other. They work on making better and better weapons while calling for peace. This is not the way of the Buddha. The Buddha became peaceful himself and then undertook to teach others how to become peaceful. This is how he is different. For whom did the Buddha teach this path? He taught it for us, for those who are able to put out the fires within, as well as for those who aren't ready yet, but who will be ready later. He gave them people who were not yet able to put out the fires. By teaching, the Buddha gave them a start on the path. So what was his objective in teaching? The passage that I mentioned, So Bhagava Samataya Dhammam Deseti. The Blessed One taught this Dhamma so that we too could become peaceful the way he did. This is expressed by the word Samataya. He taught the Dhamma in order to put out the blazing fires of the world and to get peace. He didn't have any expectation for anything else. He didn't have the aim or the desire to become labeled a great teacher of peace. He didn't teach in order to get praise. He didn't teach in order to get material reward. His objective simply was samataya, for putting out the fires of the world and becoming peaceful. His mind was very clean, so he had no desire for himself in going about teaching. So he taught the Dhamma, that is, the method which can be used to put out the fires. And he taught with compassion and great knowledge at the forefront. This is a very praiseworthy thing. So every day we recite the Odesa from the Satipatthana Sutta. And in that, the Buddha guarantees that this method can bring about 7 benefits. Does everybody know this? So you probably all remembered, this practice is for the purification of beings, purification of the mind of beings, and for the overcoming of sorrow and lamentation, for the ending, disappearance of pain and grief, for reaching the noble path, and for realization of Nibbana. So these, at the outset, the very beginning of this sutta, the Buddha said, this is what this practice can do. So, if you have gained some peace during your time here, using this method of practice, when you go back home, don't leave the practice behind. Take it with you and do it from time to time. Continue as you can to work on putting out the fires. Well, personally, in daily life, there are several things I want to mention that I have found helpful. First of all, in one section of the Mahasatipatthana Sutta, the Buddha describes how to be aware of the 4 main postures. The body is in one of 4 postures almost all the time. That is, walking or going, standing, sitting, and lying down. And being aware of what major posture we are in at any moment is a very useful thing. So, in our daily life, when we have to walk from one place to another, we can put our attention on the legs and keep our mind on making the noting of right step, left step, right step, left step. This is very helpful. We often have to walk one place to another. When we are sitting, whether we're sitting on a bus or a train, we can put our attention on the whole body sitting and note sitting. Even if we can't do it 100% of the time, we can keep on bringing our mind back, putting our mind back on the body. Also when we drive a car, when we're driving, we're sitting, And it's helpful to keep on, although we need to also be aware of seeing, hearing, where we can be aware of the position of the hands on the steering wheel, the foot on the accelerator, and so on. Of course, all these minor things we need to note too. But the major posture we are in is sitting. So it's helpful to bring our mind to that. There are many times when we have to stand in a queue. When we're standing, just put the mind on the body standing and note standing. It's a good way to use the time. Lying down also, we can lie down in bed and watch our abdomen rise and fall, or note the whole body. First, one noting with put the mind on the whole body lying, and then rising and falling also can be noted. And of course, it's very helpful to keep the 5 precepts in our daily life, because these are what make it easy for us to live with other people. Whether someone is a Buddhist, a Muslim, a Hindu, no matter what our religion, for human beings to live together, the 5 precepts are what makes it really possible to refrain from killing, stealing, adultery, and to refrain from lying and drugs and intoxicants. Of course, one may think, well, if I drink or if I take drugs, who's being harmed? No one is being harmed, and it's enjoyable. So we might think like that. And also, we might have friends that like to drink, and we might find that we have social commitments that involve drinking. So this, most lay people know what I'm talking about. Although this is the case, when one can see for oneself what the effect is of drinking or taking drugs. And personally, I have to say for myself, although I started meditating, it took a while for me to see that the path of drugs and alcohol was not the path of meditation. And if I wanted to learn the truth, I needed to stop being a social drinker. So what drinking does is, although one may not harm anybody else just having one glass of something, it harms our ability to determine what is a good thing to do and what isn't a good thing to do. Also, with this practice, what we want to do is we want to see things the way they are. And usually for me, I found the motivation behind taking drinks or drugs has to do with wanting to create a certain experience, or wanting not to experience whatever I was experiencing at the time. So I felt that it's not, these two paths are not going the same place. And when you want to have time for meditation, when you want to develop a clear mind, then you don't want the effects of the haziness that can come with it, introducing chemicals into the body. So this is my own personal reflection. One of my teachers was Deepama, and she told me to take the 5 precepts every day. She said, when you get up, make an offering. After you wash your face and put on clean clothes, then make an offering to the Buddha and pay homage, saying Namo Tassa Bhagavato and so on. Take the three refuges and take the 5 precepts. Make an offering of something like a glass of water or incense, a candle, flowers, food. And I did this every day because I respected her advice. She said that when you do this, it draws the energy for practice to you. She said that there are many beings in the world who revere the Buddha. There are many beings that we don't see. And these beings, when they see someone paying respect to the Buddha, they want to help that person. They want to help. So in this way, she said that it brings energy for the practice into your life to do this? Well, of course, we run into situations where we can't keep the precepts, we make a mistake. But every day retaking them makes one stronger and stronger until one gets to the point where one realizes the benefit, because one can see that one was in a situation where in the past, for example, say somebody might yell at you, and in the past, if someone yelled at me, I might yell back, or I might say something rude. But after taking the precepts every day for a period of time, I didn't react in the same way as I used to. And I could see over time, over a few years, that it made my life, I stopped making mistakes that I used to make. And it made me happy to see that. So this is also my own personal passing on of the advice of one of my teachers. There are many ways we can bring mindfulness into our daily life. Mahasi Sayadaw also said that one should practice, whether one is Buddhist or not, one should practice this meditation every day for an hour. And try to find a time when you're not too tired, but when your work is done so that you won't be interrupted. Try to find a place where you won't be bothered, and then apply the practice. Sorry, this is much too long. I forgot. Sorry. So there's one more thing that I want to talk about, but it will take us over 7 o'clock. It will take a few minutes past 7. And I don't know whether it's okay or not. It may be till 5 past 7. I want to close with talking about a gatha from the Dhammapada. So why did the Buddha say to do this? Because if we lack sati, then we will commit a variety of misdeeds and we will get bad results. So without sati, there won't be any restraint, without mindfulness. And if we can't restrain ourselves by avoiding doing things that shouldn't be done, and if we don't apply ourselves to do things that should be done, then we won't get any good results, since we haven't done any good things, and we will only get bad results since we haven't, since we've neglected to avoid doing bad things. And that's why the Buddha said, delight in appamada. So with the restraint of sati, it won't reach the stage of being expressed physically or verbally. There will be the control of sati, and that's why the Buddha said sacheta manarekata. Whatever the object is, whether something seen, heard, smelled, tasted, touched, or thought, guard your mind with regard to the object. So that was the Buddha's second exhortation. The Buddha recited this gatha because at the time there was an old elephant who had once been used as a war elephant. And he was grazing and got stuck in a swamp. So he tried to get himself out, struggling with his front legs, struggling with his rear legs. And the more he struggled, the more he sunk. And he kept on struggling and sinking until he reached to the point where he was about to die. The king commanded the elephant trainer to go and help. So the elephant trainer went to where the elephant was stuck and showed him all the regalia of battle, and had the battle drum sounded. They struck the battle drum, and when the elephant saw these things and heard the drum of war, his mind got very inspired, and all at once he pulled himself up out of the mud. And this is a metaphor. This describes the type of effort that we need in liberation, in our practice. Sometimes we need this type of effort. The Buddha said to the monks and nuns who were listening that you're like this elephant stuck in the mud of kilesas because you haven't known the method for getting out of this mud. So try like the elephant with the method of practice. Make great effort and to pull yourself up using this method of practice. And when the monks heard this, they became arahants. So like the elephant relied on himself to pull himself up out of the mud, so too we should try to pull ourselves up and use great effort to keep from sinking in these defilements. So although we may not be arahants, ready to be arahants at the end of this retreat, still we know the method. This is the method that leads to arahantship. And I want to urge you to keep on practicing. That's all.